one day, you were in your swimming pool when he came up to you and put around your neck the most magnificent gift, a diamond and ruby necklace.
I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I probably never will again. I mean, he was so generous, and he took such care of me. I felt so protected and loved.
Whew, we're back. Dun, 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 dun. We're back. That intro, no matter how mellowed out I am, it gets me excited. I'm glad you came back to watch a video with me and to be with me. I appreciate you being here and listening. You're here with your elder-in-chief, Karima McGee. Here on this channel is all things hot wisdom all the time. If this is your first time visiting my channel or watching any one of my videos, I'm going to ask that if anything penetrates with your spirit, if anything makes sense to you, gives you a light bulb moment, makes you want to pick up the phone and call your girlfriend and say, child, girl, you got to hear what I learned today. If it makes you want to write a piece, write something on Instagram or TikTok, I'm going to ask that you return the favor for the energy you received for free. Go ahead and drop down in the comments below, like it, comment, and or share, and let the folks where you were, where you received your inspiration from. Respecting the laws of nature, it always comes back to you. I promise you that. So please, can you do that for me? I want to get into today's video, which I think was so important that I was like, I'm going to stop what I have to do to make this quick video and get it out because it is so on time and it's aligned. I want to say that we also had another tribe member who asked specifically for a video, and I want to let you know, darling, that I promised you that I would, and I will. The video was for Lori Harvey and for Haley Bailey. I'm going to do that video. However, because all that's going on in Hollywood, there's a lot of tapping into energy, and I'm being very careful with energy depletion right now because I'm working on a project. So as soon as I feel strong enough energetically, I promise you I'll get that out to you, okay? Please know that the people that we see in entertainment, they're all energetically connected, so it's extremely important to be mindful when you're tapping in. And also, I've learned to not tap into energy that I haven't been given permission to tap into. So hang tight. I promise you I'll get that video out. Here's the comment here. Let's go ahead and read this and jump into today's video. Can we maybe respond, or no, is it respond? Yes, expand. Excuse me, I'm looking at this and the sun is shining really bright, so I apologize. But expand on a topic like how to ask for what we want in a feminine way. For instance, I thought my date was going to pay for our coffee date, and he didn't. I asked my friend's advice, and believe it or not, the answers were split. Should I give him another chance? And if I do, should the second date be a test? He was a gentleman in ways during the date, such as opening my door, dropping me off where I needed to go. Now, the second part of her question, I'm going to leave to the end of the video, or maybe I'll split that into a second video, depends on how long this video is. I want to preface my response with this. Number one, I'm a mother of a son. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. The second part of that is take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because hot wisdom is always outside of the box. It generally does not align with what we see going on in our current day or our modern culture. Sometimes it kind of rattles the cage, or it it walks a fine line between culture, today's culture, and developing a culture. So please take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Use what you can use and throw out the rest. The other part is to keep in mind my own personal experiences and or my Muslim upbringing. So I want you to keep that in mind, all right? And keep that in mind whenever you're getting information. You must keep in mind the messenger and or the source of your information. I tell that to my son all the time, and so I'm going to tell that to you. In today's world, it's important to understand that women We are perceiving men through our own set of feminine eyes. We are perceiving them through our own set of feminine eyes. And we are moving in that way. And that way can serve as a disservice for us because we're not looking at them as we should. As we should. In a way that is very masculine in nature. So when we are judging their behaviors, when we are considering whether or not they are worthy of our time, we are looking at that through a very feminine set of eyes, which is not a bad thing, but it's very linear, it's very limited. And I want to expand that for just a moment. And this is what Hut Wisdom does for us. It tells us to deal with the fact that there's still a lot of primal instincts and primal urges that we must not deny, that we have to look at when we are considering connecting with another human being, another man, another person of the opposite sex. We have to consider whether or not we've entered the world of the honeybee, whether or not we've entered the world of the whale, whether or not and from there we can determine what our actions should be. But if we act first through our feminine set of eyes, it's going to always trip us up. It's going to always set us up, all right? And confuse us. Because women, as my mentor, Baba Heru, has always said, and I said it in the book, women, we are still a mystery unto ourselves. And so to move throughout the world, through our own set of eyes is a disservice. All right. We have to be able to look at the world on the opposite side. And so here's where I want to go. Today's modern man is not your granddad, just as well as you are not your grandma, in a way that we think and or move. Okay. We're about 25 to 30 years removed from some of the standards that we still have in place, meaning we're in a new day and age with old ideas. And I hope that makes sense. So when men are looking at women today, they are putting women in very strange boxes, all right, according to the behavior of the woman and how she's packaged. They're putting us in boxes. And these boxes are as follow. And this is Karima McGee speaking to you, okay? Free agent, free spirited, magical, mystical, free being, artistic being, call girl, service worker. You following what I'm saying? Call girl, service worker, wife, girlfriend, sister, daughter, mother, blah, 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 blah. Men have these little compartments and they can compartmentalize the world, all right? Hence why they can do something and have no emotional attachment to it, if you know what I mean. And they're very good at doing that. Putting you in a compartment, closing that door, and you're being locked there. And once they've labeled it, it's very difficult for them to take that label off, undo the drawer, let you out free so they can learn a little bit more about who you are. So I want you to really listen to this video and really get what I'm saying. Once you are trapped in the drawer with that label on it, it's very difficult for a man to reopen up that same drawer, to remove that label. And they label it according to the woman's actions, her desires, her needs, her wants, what she asks for, how she's packaged. Your packaging matters, okay? Yes, it does. Unfortunately, but it does. That is how men are moving today. And once you've been put into a drawer, like call girl or service worker, you're going to get what your hand calls for. Once you've been put into the drawer of daughter, sister, aunt, good girl even, once you get labeled and you're put in that drawer, you're going to get what your hands calls for. If you are put in the drawer sensual, sexual, sensual, sexual. This is just a casual thing. It's very difficult to come out of that casual drawer. We're talking about modern men here, okay? Not talking about your granddad. Now, why is this information useful? Why not just say, is she going on a second date? Did he do anything wrong? I had to set it up so that you guys can understand this is a teachable moment. Before you accept a date, two things must happen. One, you must determine whether or not the person who asks for the date deserves your time and energy and effort. And how you determine that on whether or not they are a person of interest. Establish that first. Is this a person of interest? If it's a person of interest, then something must follow that. However, if it's not a person of interest and it's just someone you're going out on a date with because you're dating, then in that case, there is no expectations for neither one of us. If I'm just going to get coffee with you and I haven't established whether or not you're a person of interest, then I'm not angry that you didn't pay for the coffee. In fact, I'm actually happy that you came. Maybe I just wanted to spend some time with someone. But if I determine that you are a person of interest, all right, that means I've identified whether or not I'm going on a date with the honeybee, the whale. Who am I going on a date with? I've established that because a few things might have happened already. We've had phone calls. He's played music for me on the phone. All right? He told me a little bit about his life history. And I find that he is an interesting person that I want to know a little bit more about. He too has determined that I might be a person of interest and he wants to know a little bit more. At that point, you move accordingly because you're going to get what your hands calls for, depending upon how he's compartmentalized you. If you're a casual person with no person of interest, then it's going to be a casual coffee date. It's not going to pay. Doesn't mean he's a bad person. It just means that's how he compartmentalized. That can be based on packaging. It can be based on interactions. She's okay. Compartmentalized. Even if it's the whale and there has been something established, he's determined you are a person of interest, someone he wants to get to know a little bit more about. And you're in the I like her box. And you've established, you followed Elder Eden's rules, you're going to get what your hands call for and you'll never be asked to pay for another drop of coffee in your life. But you have to follow those steps. When I say that we are looking at the world and we're looking at men and we're viewing men for our own set of feminine eyes, this is what I'm talking about. The setup happens, the trickery happens, and we get tripped up and we don't know how to move. We don't know how to move because we're not following the laws. If you want to attract a generous man, all right, set yourself up for that before you even start dating. Set yourself up for that so when they engage with you, they already know what the deal is. They already understand what the deal is. And how do you do that? You have to establish that before you go. There had to have been a few phone calls, all right? A few late nights and a few early mornings getting to know one another. And you know what? I want to know a little bit more. Let's go out on a date. But in today's times, everything is casual. And because we have casual actions, we are expecting a little too much from those casual interactions. If it was hut wisdom, the woman would have already known and she would move accordingly. In this video that we've been playing since in the background with Elizabeth Taylor, and her husband, well, one of her husbands. There's not been a woman in Hollywood who's been more adorned with jewels like Elizabeth Taylor. I think I've got my early bug from watching, growing up, Elizabeth Taylor. I love jewelry. My God, I do. But she was always giving such grand gifts from her mates. Why was that? Why is that? What caused that? What would make a man get a woman a tiara, a diamond and ruby tiara? What would make him say, you know what, I want to get her a tiara, I want to get her rubies, I want to make sure that she's adorned with all the best gifts and all the great, even going way back, in high school, I always thought about, well, how did I do that? And when my mother said, you get what your hands calls for, it makes sense, and I'm going to share it with you. How you treat yourself is how your mate will treat you. If a man sees that you have an interest in jewelry, and he values you already, he's already established that there is a point of interest, you're going to have more jewels. If he likes you that way. If he doesn't like you, you'll never see a jewel. If he doesn't like you that way, you'll never see a jewel. If you're not the girl, that you're just not that girl. You become that girl first. You are that girl before you meet him. And then when he meets you, he realizes you are that girl. And so it comes from him freely. Especially if he's the bore. Oh my goodness, jewelry, coffee, trips. It's his nature to want to make sure that the things that he loves are taken good care of. And Lord, if it's the honeybee, that honeybee is a nut. I tell you, if it's the honeybee, you better check to make sure he didn't just sign your name over on a car he just bought, put your name on some sort of credit card and scam you. That honeybee is a mess, you hear me? But by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, I was about to make a joke, but it's not actually even funny at all, actually. But in the book Woman, I put Puff Daddy and Nick Cannon where in the book? Remember that? Were they the whale? What were they? We put Rick Ross where? Was he the whale? Where were they? I'm not going to say I'm right when I'm right, but I want you to look at current pop culture news right now and go to the book Woman and see where I place them. And you tell me whether or not I had it right or wrong, all right? I ain't gonna say I'm right when I'm right. Anyway, that's even important because when you determine that, then you know who you have in front of you, all right? You have a generous person in front of you. You have a stingy person in front of you. You have a selfish person. You know that, right? And so is it even worth your time to go on a date? Now, as far as this young lady is concerned, as far as whether or not she should go on date number 2, darling, I think it's extremely important that you establish this. Whether or not he's a person of interest, all right? Whether or not you feel like he feels like you're a person of interest. And then move from there. If he's a person of interest, then of course you can actually say with your mouth, if he asks for another date, if he says, I want to take you out again, then you say right then and there, you set the standard. You're not in a nasty way. You say, I would love to go out with you, but I'd much rather you pay. Are you okay with that? If he says, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Then number 1, 2 things. 1, he doesn't have a problem paying. And number 2, you're a person of interest for him. Okay?